Well, before we get to that, let's discuss this. 2 days ago, the Athletic Mike Sando, MVP voter, had released his results of the poll he took with 50 executives um, who put quarterbacks in tiers. We're not going to revisit the whole thing, but for the first time ever, Lamar Jackson finally was in tier one. I believe he got 47 votes for tier one, so it wasn't unanimous. The only two unanimous people were Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole again, but Lamar was not unanimous, but he finally was tier one. So Mike Sando was on with our friend. I almost called him Chuck Clark, but that is a former safety. Forgive me, Glenn Clark. Forgive me, sir. But Mike Sando went on the Glenn Clark show to talk about the people, the executives and people that he spoke to. And he was being asked about why it took so long for Lamar to hit tier one. And that's where his infamous phrase comes in. He called them QB snobs, calling those out that wouldn't put Lamar in tier one.
Oh, it's great to be here. I'm not wearing my bulletproof vest that I've had to wear in the past. That's the messenger of how in the heck is Lamar Jackson not in tier one? He didn't just sneak into tier one. I mean, he just almost unanimous. So I think it was time. I think it's, we're past the point of him holding the team back in the playoffs or having questions about his game. I mean, uh, what more is there to do for him except, get a little deeper in the playoffs, which is hard to do in the AFC last time I checked.
Yeah, there's no doubt that that's true, and obviously it's the same problem that sort of faces some of the other quarterbacks that are in tier one. There is their inability to win a Super Bowl.
Well, here's what it is. So Josh Allen got 3 tier 2 votes too. So what is that? What does Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have in common? Right? It's a little bit more reliance on their legs, and I think that there are some QB snobs, who uh, really still put so much emphasis on the ability to pass when you have to throw the ball. They see Josh Allen has some one-off games. I think he had a 9 for 30 game last year.
Against
It was
against
rough.
the Ravens. Yes.
Yeah, didn't he have it against Houston too? I can't remember. He had a bad game,
Um,
but we. So I think that's what it is. There's one. I think there's at least one ballot where Burrow and Mahomes were the only tier one guys on the ballot, and you get some other people that have 6 or 7 tier ones on the ballot. It all evens out. To me, what was most impressive about Lamar Jackson last year, and what was totally different about anything he's done before, is that they were winning games with the bad defense and bad special teams. Now they got better late in the year, but to me, that's a huge test for quarterbacks. I think it's really hard to do. It's rare. Patrick Mahomes is one of the few quarterbacks to like win a Super Bowl without having a top defense. So I think that's where Lamar Jackson gained in certainly in my view of what he's been able to do because they've always been so good on defense and special teams. It's an easier game to win.
Mm. So it's exactly what we thought. Here's what makes me happy, Bobby. He said right there, Mike Sando said right there, some of the things we've been saying on our show for quite some time. But other national media don't listen to the vault. They do listen to each other, especially somebody who has the cachet of an MVP voter. And so I hope more national media hear the messaging from Mike Sando right there, where he called them QB snobs. Why? Why? Because they obsessively emphasize only passing on, say, like 39 situations. And that's what they're calling pure passers, pure pocket passers. And it just I don't understand how they can't see how having more options is better. I didn't pull this clip, but later on in this interview, Mike Sando said to Glenn Clark that the reason why being able to run in the past has been used against quarterbacks, it's only because it's when quarterbacks use running as a crutch. They use the running as a crutch and are trying to compensate for not being able to pass. And when you use running as a crutch, it shrinks your career. At least it has for other quarterbacks, which is why it's so nice to see Lamar with Todd Monken giving him the opportunity to do things he's already been capable of doing, to pass more. Because for Lamar, running is a superpower, but it's not a crutch. And so what I want these NFL executives that he's calling QB snobs to understand is that when you're 3rd and 9, yes, Lamar Jackson can be the pure pocket passer that you're drooling over. He can be that. But if something breaks down, he has second play ability that's number 1 in the league. It might be number 1 all time. His second. So to be able to say, hey, I've got a quarterback who can give me a second chance if things break down or if things are covered or if things don't go the way they want. And that second play ability could manifest itself in several ways. It could be what I just described, what he was doing with Justice Hill against Chris Jones, where he's like moving up and down in the pocket and buying more time. We've seen that over and over again. The Isaiah Likely catch against the Jaguars come to mind, or when he stiff arms, I think it was Sam Hubbard, and finds Isaiah in the end zone again. The fact that he can buy a second play by either moving around in the pocket or by taking off and running, why isn't that infinitely more valuable than somebody who doesn't have that ability? That makes no sense to me. And so I'm happy to hear somebody with the cachet of Mike Sando say, hey, that's QB snobbery.
I hope his phrase also refers to those who just can't fathom that Lamar Jackson and the style that he plays the game of football with has evolved into the passer that he has, right? Can't fathom it, can't acknowledge it, and knock him because of it in a lot of these tiers that they have votes for. Like, I hope quarterback snobs refers to those folks as well, and maybe that's what he's getting at here with where you were at as well, combining those two, because to me, in my mind, that's what a snob would consist of, and I think the phrase absolutely exists. We've covered it extensively throughout this offseason and in years past as well. It continues to follow Lamar. He doesn't care, nor should he, but we do, and that's why we're covering it.
Bobby, I hate to leave you high and dry. The ambulance is in front of my house. I've mentioned before that we've had some health issues with my in-laws. So I'm going to step out for just a second, make sure that everything's okay. I've got 2 more just to help you out. I've got 2 more clips from Mike Sando. One, he's talking about how the difference in Lamar's regular season game versus playoff game, it used to be a wide gulf. It's gotten better. And then he talks about the weapons around Lamar that they've gotten him and how maybe for like Mahomes, you've seen him have less weapons. So I'm going to step out for a second. Just want to make sure everything's okay. And I'll be back. I'm sorry to leave you high and dry.
Nope. Take as long time as
All
you
right.
need. Yep. Sounds good.
Yes, but I've done this research, and now this has changed the last couple of years. Lamar hasn't been what held them back at the playoffs the last couple of years. Before that, though, the gap between regular season and postseason, just sort of statistical production for these quarterbacks, Lamar's was huge, bigger than the other ones. Now, Josh Allen, obviously very early in his career, had the horrific game at Houston, but I think he's had better ones since then, and has actually done fairly well individually. I feel like Lamar didn't for a while, and now the last couple of years he's been fine. But I think I don't think it was exaggerated for him because I think he was so much different production-wise in the playoffs for a while.
Yeah. And the numbers bear that out now too, right? Like now national folks like Mike are catching on to what we all know, and that is Lamar still maybe hasn't had that signature full 4-quarter game in the month of January that he's had countless times in the regular season, but he has had halves, right? He has had moments, and it's only a matter of time until he puts it together collectively for a full game. But this idea that Lamar hasn't shown up in the postseason, that's tired. That's old. He has. And when the game was on the line, we all knew and know how he responded this past January in the elements, mind you, in Western New York. So another one for Mike Sando here before we wrap up the segment.
Wonder too, it was an interesting comment that was made about Lamar in the fact that, like, finally it seems like the Ravens have put together a more representative group of pass catchers and offensive weapons around him. And maybe it's interesting to me too because you see Pat Mahomes no longer the definitive solo number one. I just wonder if maybe we don't realize it until we see what players are able to do around them when they're a bit more representative.
Yeah, and also they changed their offense, too, which I think was a component of Lamar emerging and showing he could do what he hadn't always been asked to do earlier, even if we saw glimpses of it. So, yes, I've always felt like for quarterbacks, there's a baseline level of weaponry required to succeed, and we've seen over the years, even Tom Brady when he would lose Gronkowski, or Edelman or both, it could look really tough for a while. And I think Mahomes has been dealing with that a little bit as Travis Kelce's gotten older, just dynamically, and Lamar's always had, through himself and now through Derrick Henry, and just the DNA of the head coach, the run game has always been prioritized, except for that one game in the playoffs that we're forgetting about a couple years ago where they kicked themselves.
Yes.
But that component of being able to run the ball and having it in your DNA to run the ball, in addition to doing all the things Lamar can do, very tough combination. I don't feel that with the Chiefs. I feel like Andy Reid over his career has just wanted to throw the ball and has to talk himself in to remind himself to run it, right? And I think that probably makes it somewhat tougher for Mahomes.
Hey, before we react, all good in the hood?
I think my mother-in-law is on the way to the hospital, but I think more than anything, I mean, they have it all under control. My father-in-law is out there, and then the ambulance medics are out there, so they've got her all under control. So I think they're going to head to the hospital, and I just needed to calm my girls a little bit. And I think my father-in-law is going to follow them out there to the hospital. So I will check in on them after the show. But I think right now it's just a matter of just staying out of their way while the ambulance kind of does their thing. So,
all right. I can take it from here if you need be at any time. So just let me know.
I think we're okay. I think my girls seem to be okay. And I think I would just be in the way at this point. So,
all right.
Yeah. Thanks for checking.
We're wrapping up here shortly, but those last two clips, you set them up. One was about the postseason and like this old narrative that still exists for whatever reason in terms of what Lamar was instead of what he is, which is somebody that's starting to stack. Has he not had that signature game yet? I don't think he's had a signature game. He's had a signature second half. He's had signature quarters, signature moments, but he's still waiting on that full 4-quarter performance. And then just like you said there, like back in the day when Brady would be without Gronk or without Edelman or Mahomes without, he's had some pretty good health throughout his run in terms of the playmaking around him. I guess they have been banged up though in a couple Super Bowls now that I've thought about it, but they just find a way. And Lamar found a way when it counted, Sarah, last year without his top 2 wide receivers and found a way to somehow put together what could have been a game-tying drive, when it mattered the most against Buffalo. So good stuff there from Sando. Is there anything else that you wanted to react to?
Well, just I think, and this is Sod Blitz who made this graphic for us, right? He took the work, the numbers we had put together and put it in a nice graphic. But Mike Sando, did you already show this while I was out?
No, and shout out Sod to your point. This was through the Discord server that he threw this graphic on there. And look, he even threw the vault graphic on the bottom left-hand side of it. So shout out Sod Blitz.
Yeah, appreciate you, Sod. But I love that Mike Sando has independently come to the same conclusion that I've done with my research. And I'm sure many other Ravens fans, I'm sure Mike and myself are not the only ones, but Mike talked about the difference between Lamar's play in the regular season and the postseason, and how it used to be like this wide gulf. He'd be like sensational during the regular season, and then, the opposite in the regular season. And while I still feel like Lamar's hasn't played like his best game in the playoffs, I don't think right. Like that would be like a Jackson 5 or something like that. Although you're not going to get that against playoff defenses. Right. But I don't think we've seen Lamar Jackson's best game in the playoffs. That being said, his playoff performances from I'll just say it, they like the Greg Roman years, 2019 to 2022, versus what they are in the Todd Monken years are drastically different. 1-3 with Roman, 2-2 with Todd Monken. Touchdowns 3-7, interceptions 5-2, pass yards 900 to 853, completion percentage 55.9 to 66.7, quarterback rating. I mean, this just jumps massively, 68.3 to 105.8. And then the fumbles and lost. So 5 fumbles, 2 lost with Roman, 2 fumbles and then 2 lost with Todd Monken. I'd say that's the area where Lamar's still in the Todd Monken area. We want 0 fumbles. He'll be the first to say that. But I'm glad that Mike Sando, hopefully his voice will help turn the tide on the narrative with Lamar. Yes, he can still play his best game in the playoffs, but let's not pretend that this is still 2019.